And we're live. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Mamta Bharadwaj, and I head employer branding at the Nudge Institute. And welcome to another edition of Jigyasa. This is the very first Jigyasa this year, so a very warm welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening. Very excited about this discussion today. Some of my favorite people joining us for a very fun, exciting conversation that all of us are looking forward to. Uh, so, a little bit about Jigyasa before we begin the conversation. Jigyasa, as an initiative, as you all know, is an opportunity to help you unpack the work and life of an individual in the social sector and also give you the tools to access the sector as a part of your own journey. A little bit about the Nudge Institute. About 10 years ago, we started with the belief that every human being deserves a dignified life out of poverty. Nudge works on ground through its livelihood programs and with multiple stakeholders across the livelihoods ecosystem. You must visit our website to learn more about the work that we do across these spaces. Today, we have Ananya, who's Associate People and Culture, who I work with very closely because I'm also a part of People and Culture joining us. She's also the recipient of Nutstar Enabler Award for 2025. We also have Ria joining us, who is an associate in the livelihood programs. She's the recipient of the Nutstar True to the Spirit Award for 2025. So, big shout out to Ananya and Ria who are joining us today and representing Gen Z in this organization and beyond. We also have Gitanjali joining us, who is director of the livelihood programs. Gitanjali heads the Village 360 program within the Nudge Institute. It is a sustainable village development and poverty alleviation program. Gitanjali is someone who is deeply passionate about resilient livelihoods and regenerative agriculture and is working on village level models that can secure sustainable income growth for all households in a community. And of course, you'll hear more from her about her take on the sector, about professionals, and beyond. Today, they're all joining us to discuss this very topic, right? And that this topic has also made inroads into workspaces more than one way. And more recently, it has made an impact in the space of politics and governance as well. And I'd like for you to think about Bulgaria. For you to think about Nepal. So the topic is Gen Z. The social sector today is more dynamic than ever, bringing together professionals from across generations to tackle complex societal challenges. And as Gen Z enters the workforce with strong values around purpose, equity, flexibility, and impact, social sector organizations like ours are increasingly gaining traction for meaningful careers. In today's conversation, what we look to do is demystify what a meaningful career means. Beyond the jargon, what does it mean for a young professional who has all the intent, and what does it mean for an advanced professional who has spent years learning the ins and outs of a traditional workspace and is creating new paradigms of impact through this opportunity? We also look to our speakers to understand the diversity of roles and career paths within the organization and how they contribute uniquely to impact work. As more Gen Z folks enter the workforce, we'll hear firsthand what their motivations, aspirations are, and what they're curious about, their strengths, and how they can be empowered on a path to achieve collective goals. And I'd like to invite our speakers to introduce themselves and begin discussing the topic. But a quick call out before that on curated conversations, an opportunity for aspirants to learn more about the current openings at the Nudge Institute. There's a link in our comment section where you can sign up to learn about the openings, which are in the space of Gen Z. And if you want to talk to Nudsters and learn firsthand about the opportunity, what the work culture is like, and what you can sign up for in the long-term career within the Nudge, this is a great opportunity for you. So please visit the link. Now I'm going to stop talking and quickly invite our speakers to introduce themselves, handing it over to Ananya right away.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Ananya. I am working with the People and Culture vertical right now as an engagement partner. I've been working with the Nudge for the past 1.6 years almost now. I am from Assam, a very small town in Assam called Jorhat. I'm not sure a lot of you must be aware of it, but yeah, it's a very pretty place. If you are enthusiastic about going and watching beautiful tea gardens, you should definitely visit Jorhat. And I have been working in the development sector since the beginning of my career. I have also done my education in similar lines. So I have always been enthusiastic about working in impact space. Other than work, I like to read a lot. I also love to listen to a lot of music, to a point that my friends had to scold me to remove my earphones in social spaces and interact with people. Yeah, and I also love to sleep a lot. That's one of my favorite pastimes, actually. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Ananya. I'm sure a lot of us relate to some of the things you said, apart from Assam, which I mean the tea gardens, but which very looking forward to visit, like you said. Now I'd like to invite Ria to introduce herself and let us know about what her journey has been like.
Hey, hi everyone. I am Riya Prasad from Jamshedpur, Jharkhand. I did my master's in rural development and governance from TES Hyderabad in 2022. To be honest, my journey into the social sector was not something I had planned from the beginning. Like many young professionals, I was initially drawn towards the corporate world and the idea of a comfortable lifestyle. However, during my field work at TES, I closely witnessed the reality faced by the rural communities and saw how thoughtful, well designed interventions can actually transform lives. That experience deeply shifted me and my perspective and helped me discover a strong sense of purpose. And since 2022, I have been working with the Nudge Institute as a block lead in Tumaria block of Jharkhand under the Economic Inclusion Program. I currently lead the implementation of the program for over 1,100 extremely vulnerable households. My role involves overall block level planning and execution, mentoring field teams, coordinating with government stakeholders, ensuring timely delivery of livelihood and social protection interventions, tracking progress through data, and strengthening community institutions to enable sustainable livelihood outcomes. Yeah, that's a little bit about
Me,
me.
thank you, Ria. Thank you for that very inspiring introduction. Now inviting Gitanjali to share a little bit about herself and what she does at the Nudge.
Hello everyone, I am Gitanjali. I run a whole village program at the Nudge, basically trying to see how we can bring up the income levels of the entire village, right? So I qualified to be a millennial by a whisker 1 year earlier, and I would have been a Gen Z. So, and I'm living my career in decades, right? So, the first decade went into working with corporates. The next was being an entrepreneur, running my own businesses. And now I am 2 years into my third decade, which is with the not for profit space. I'm a doggy mom, mom to Chico and Subbu. And I'm from Kerala, speak Tamil, studied in Andhra, married to a bong, all of which makes me confused. So happy to be here with my colleagues to talk about Gen Z and to talk about career seeking purpose.
Thank you, Gitanjali. Thank you for thinking about Bengali, Tamil, and Andhra food all at once. Now, quickly moving on to the very interesting topic that we have at hand, I'd like to begin, hearing from Ananya and Ria about how they chose to be a part of the social impact space and what drove their decisions at such an early stage of their careers. Ria did speak about it a little. I'll hand it over to Ananya to tell us how she chose to be a part of the social sector and what really inspired her.
Well, if you think about it, I did not start my education journey as thinking that I would work in the impact space. I have always been curious about understanding society in general. I remember, I think that was I was in class 9, and one of my geography teachers, she said, when I was young, I used to hear that India is a developing country. Now you guys are in school, and I'm still hearing that India is a developing country. In another 10 years also, I think India is still going to be a developing country, and that really struck me. I was like, why is that so it's more of a curiosity that made me want to go and understand development and the society and humanities. It is when I actually started studying in this that I realized the reality of what development means, and I am capable of doing in this space, right? I realize that I come with a lot of privilege, and it is my responsibility at the end of the day to to leverage that privilege to actually do something meaningful. So that is how I got into the development sector. I started my career in actually working in education, children's education. Um, but I always wanted to also work in people and culture. I wanted to understand how HR works in the social sector, because when we talk about HR, it's always very corporate. Rarely do we talk about people and culture in social sector. It's whenever we talk about HR in social sector, it's the comments are always around how it's so unstructured and there are no processes and systems, and that is what this uncertainty is what made me curious about working in this particular vertical. Yes.
Great. Thanks, Ananya. Just to call out to our audiences, if you have any questions, comments to share with us, please feel free to use the comment section. We'll try and take as many questions as possible. Towards the end of the session, we have some time for that. And now I'd also like to invite Ria to speak a little about if you have anything to add in terms of what really drove you to join the Nudge.
So, in my case, one of our alumni who is now working with the Nudge Institute came to our alumni meetup and shared his experiences. He talked about the kind of work the Nudge does, especially addressing extreme vulnerability and the exposure and satisfaction that come from working in the social sector. That conversation was an eye opener for me and inspired me to reach out to the Nudge and start my journey in impact work. And since joining, I have been working hands on with the extremely vulnerable households in one of the most marginalized block of Jharkhand under the Economic Inclusion Program. Many of these households struggle to meet even their basic needs, like spending 80% of their income on their consumption and still struggling to meet basic nutritional requirements. So, seeing their transformation keeps me motivated. For example, imagine a family that was struggling to get 2 meals a day, now running a snack point, feeding others, and making a good money. The satisfaction of seeing a household move from survival to stability is incomparable, and these real stories of change are what continue to inspire me.
Thanks, Ria. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I'd like to put the spotlight on Gitanjali and bring her in to talk about what you started your career much earlier, and for let us know what when you started your career, how were things different and how have they evolved. You work with the Gen Z now, and of course, a lot of us are millennials also in the organization. How have things changed? The workspace definitely has evolved tremendously, and what excites you about working with the next generation of professionals, especially in this impact space?
Thanks, Mamta. I think when I started off, I think I'm a relic now because I started working informally, I think in 1998, 1999, something, right? When I started, careers were far more linear in the sense that you stayed longer, you slowly learnt on the job, you earned your responsibilities over the years. And it was very common to see people working in the same organization for 10 years, 15 years. It's also due to the fact that there weren't as many options as you have today. Joining it was just a given that hey, you find a job in a big name or an MNC. That was the dream. And once you got a job there, you sort of stayed put there, right? You either got a campus placement or something like that. You got lucky, basically. You did your internship, found a job there, maybe, and then you moved only if there wasn't a further path for you in the same organization, or there was a really compelling reason. Work, of course, was very different. Can you imagine desktops everywhere, no laptops that we could bring into a meeting? So if we are having a meeting, it would mean, say I've sent out a PPT, I would actually print out the PPT and take the papers to the meeting, and then these papers would just be circulated around and we would look at them and discuss them, right? Because you can't bring your desktops into a meeting room. Anyway, and then Windows machines would require all your control alt delts. Ever so often, things would crash. I don't know if it still happens. I'm using a Mac now. This was this was all before the machines would recover files, right? I was just telling someone else the other day that I do a by default control S. Over the years, I just learned to do that because we lose all the files, right? So yeah, so it was quite an interesting time, and I'm glad that all of that has changed now. But the best thing that's changed is genuinely the culture. Expectations have shifted. There's more emphasis on purpose, growth, well-being, especially in the not-for-profit space. There's more room to say, "I don't know, I need help." Earlier, it would have been career suicide if you'd say, uh, listen, I don't know this, I don't know how to do this, right? You're expected to know some things. So, what excites me about working with Gen Z is their instinctive systems thinking. They connect climate, livelihoods, tech, equity, all of this without treating them as separate sectors. They ask why before they can learn how, because it's crucial for them to be able to first align with the purpose. So they also bring urgency, less tolerance for slow change, more push towards solving root causes. The best work, I guess, happens when their speed meets experience. Uh, so I'm quite excited, and I find it very exciting, very energizing working with the Gen Z around.
Thanks, Gitanjali. Thank you for taking us down that trip down memory lane in a way and talking about things that might seem like relics right now. But it was, these are experiences that all of us have had, and we've burnt our fingers way too many times not doing that control S. So we've learned it and made a part of our, our biomechanics right now, I guess. But yes, that was nice to hear about how we're very different in our approaches and certain practices that have stuck with us over the period of time. And having said that, I'd like to now talk about Gen Z and also talk about some of those quirky things that we hear about them in media and also experience when we interact with them. Gen Z is famous for its, and sometimes even infamous for its approach to work, from quirky email sign-offs to this unique lexicon that comprises Riz and main character energy and rent-free and TLDR because it's just too long. Who's going to read that? So on the one hand, we have shorter attention spans on social media, and this might be applicable for generations across the board. But we have that on one hand, and on the other, we have a more pronounced focus on mental health and fitness consciousness. So there's plenty of commentary, research, trends being reported about this generation, unlike ever before, and plenty of generalization as well. And this is something that comes from first-hand experience for me. So we'll try and cut that noise for a moment today and dig a little deeper into what their genuine priorities and expectations are. So we'll hear directly from Ananya and Ria about what they really look for from a workplace, from colleagues, and in terms of what their career aspirations in the long run are. Handing it over to Ananya to tell us what she thinks about this.
One thing that I feel that I personally, also I see my peers, people my age, right, that they value a lot above everything else is intent and the outcome of the activity that we do using that intent, right? It's not the processes and the policies and the rigidity of the formalities that we really bother about, but it is actually the end of the day the meaning of the work that we're doing, right? So that is something that I have seen Gen Z value a lot, including myself when I say Gen Z. And this also lets us, gives us this, power to ask questions. We don't shy away from asking questions. Gen Z, I have seen most of the times, they'll not care about who's in the room. There is no fear of hierarchy or seniority saying, oh, I will not ask this question because this person is so senior to me. What will they think of me, or how would they react? But I would rather ask a question and sound dumb than do something not knowing the meaning or outcome intended behind that, right? So that is something that I've seen around me, where people, Gen Z especially, do not shy away from asking questions and asking the right questions, because at the end of the day, if you do not ask questions, then you do not solve the problem. A lot of the solutions that we look for are actually right in front of our eyes, but we miss out on them, I feel, because of so many other processes that we keep following on an operational basis, that if we just stop and just ask the question of why are we doing this, maybe that simple question can trickle down to an answer that is going to solve a lot of problems. That day I was in a meeting with a bunch of people, and my boss, he says, we can't do this because my boss has said no. And then we are trying to solve for this problem that I said, if we do this, then it's going to solve for so many of these problems that you've listed down. Why are you not pushing back? And then he said, okay, I'll take you to my boss and you will have a conversation with him saying, why are you not doing this? But that's the thing. If you put me in a room with him also, probably I will not shy away from asking the question, why are we not doing this? So that is something that we value a lot. And also the and with intent, and with this power of asking question, or this not dreading asking question, also comes a lot of autonomy, and autonomy gives a space to take ownership and create new solutions. I've heard of this block lead in Gujarat, Anas. He has solved for a very critical problem that people in the team, the program in Gujarat was facing, where the government provided for the funds, and it was a huge amount of fun. And but they had said that we will only do transactions through digital wallets, and there'll be no cash or bank transfers at any place. And people were losing their minds, thinking, how are these going to find phones? They don't have homes, and they don't have basic necessities. Where are we going to find GPays for each of these DDs? And he found a solution where we pool all the money and use one account to do a transfer. He found a vendor for it. So these kind of innovations actually come up through the autonomy and the ownership that people get through having the autonomy to ask questions in the first place.
Great, thanks, Ananya. And yes, I do really appreciate the fact that you're able to bring questions to the table without, holding back, without fearing, hierarchy and things like that. And I think that has been empowering for more than just the Gen Z and just the overall workforce. That was really interesting to hear from your end. Ria, I'd like to bring you in on the same question in terms of what really drives uh, what drives you, and what are your priorities and expectations from a workplace and from your colleagues, and what are your career aspirations within that?
Ananya already mentioned the and covered most of the part. I'll even I agree that we are dealing with some other level of issues, like there and there's a lot of commentary about our language, our supposed short attention spans, and focus on mental health. But for me and many like me who is working on the implementation and who is closely working at the grassroots level, what we really want is meaningful execution, as Ananya mentioned. Uh, for example, in one of our programs, we had to ground assets for 1,000 families. On paper, the policy looked simple: transfer funds, purchase livestock, and complete the process. But on the ground, there was only one bank at a block level, 15 to 35-kilometer away from the villages, and women had to travel long distance just by walk just to withdraw money, then arrange transportation, find vendors, bring livestock back home. So a program that is designed to improve livelihood was unintentionally increasing their burden. And that experience shaped my understanding of work. For me, meaningful work is not about implementing policies or blindly following policies. It's about understanding the context, questioning gaps, identifying policy loopholes, coming up with the innovative solutions, and making systems work better for the people they are meant to serve. For us, the goal matters. The process can evolve, and I think that reflects what many young professionals expect from their workplaces. And also, as Ananya already mentioned, that we love to question. So we need that space to ask why. We want leaders who are open to feedbacks and honest dialogues. We value flexibility, not because we avoid responsibility, but because we focus on outcomes and impact. And in terms of career aspirations, we don't believe in just landing one dream job and staying them forever. We want to explore, experiment, and grow across roles. We are obviously ambitious, and what we measure, where we measure ambition is in impact and learning, not just titles. So yeah.
Thanks, Ria. That's actually a good reminder of our own experiences, right? That it's not just about titles; it's really about the learning and how we're able to create that impact for the people that we're working with. And the way that happens is through autonomy, is through flexibility, and is through that agency and opportunity to devise our own pathways and solutions. So that was really interesting to hear from both of you. I'd like to bring a question to Gitanjali now, but since we're at pretty much at the midpoint, another quick reminder to our audience to feel free to share your comments and questions with us for us to take towards the end of the session. And we'll have any of us, Ananya, Ria, Gitanjali, respond to them. So yes, now moving on to getting Gitanjali's point of view in terms of how as managers and professionals who have been in the workspace for a good amount of time now and who are leading the pathways for younger professionals, how can social sector organizations prepare to leverage this curiosity and the strengths they bring, which is questioning things, which is you know uh, flexibility, giving leverage to flexibility and innovation? How can social sector organizations and work cultures design themselves in a way where they can promote their curiosity and also promote our pathways towards outcomes, and how intergenerational collaboration and coherence sort of becomes the norm for our workspaces?
I'll have to be honest here, Mamta. It's still work in progress for me. It's still understanding context of Gen Zs and working with them is still, like I said, work in progress. But I think as managers, we all have the responsibility of leading our teams with clarity. More so if you're working in the social sector space, because we work on these big hairy problems, right, like poverty, education, healthcare, all of that. But listening to what Ria and Ananya just said, that for them it's very important to question what is the intent, right? Why are we doing this? So I would say as managers, especially in the social sector area, we start by explaining the why, not just the task. So millennials are used to, or long back when we started out work, you used to your managers saying, "Hey, this is the task, and get this done," right? And not why we have to do this task, and what is the importance of doing this, and who is this going to help downstream, and all of that. It would just be, here's the task, go and do it, right? But I think we have to change the way we work. Start by explaining the why, not just the task. Younger professionals engage deeply when they understand the purpose, like what Ria and Ananya just said, not just process. Create spaces where questioning feels safe. Curiosity should not feel like disrespect. When someone's curious, it's coming up from a place of genuine curiosity and interest. I think we have to create spaces as managers where questioning feels safe. You feel safe to bring something up, right? Pair experience with energy, structured mentoring, which is both ways. So mentoring does not always have to flow manager to team member, but it can flow both ways, especially in areas where we are dealing with intergenerational stuff. Seniors can share context, whereas juniors share new approaches and tools. This whole example that Ananya just gave about, she was asking a manager, why can't it be done this way? And go back, and I think we should push back and ask why this can't be done in a certain way. I think we need to learn both ways. We have to replace rigid hierarchies with clear ownership. Clarity matters again, I would say, than control. Building learning into work. So there's a lot of work that we do on the ground, but it has to be built in with the learning that's coming in from the work as well. We'll have to have sessions kept aside for reflections from the field, what we are learning from the field, what our experiences from the field are, sharing them with one another. Field immersions, more of field immersions where even teams which are not field teams are made part of field teams by them traveling to the field and actually learning things on the ground, right? And meeting participants of these programs firsthand. Um, Yeah, I think being transparent about decisions, coherence, I think grows when people see how choices are being made. And most importantly, I think treating generational differences as complementary strengths and not some behavioral issue or a problem one has to fix.
Thank you, Gitanjali. I think the complementary strengths part is the most important. It's something that does not get highlighted in pop culture or on social media or the barrage of reportage that we see around Gen Z. And this has been true for all generations, right? When we joined, we had the baby boomers, or before that, they were older generations. And obviously, there's going to be friction when a new generation enters the workplace. And finding those spaces where there's opportunity for fine tuning and learning from one another, I think is really important, because there definitely are strengths that we can exchange and learn from. uh, at this point, we've looked to do something really interesting and open Pandora's box to address some controversial topics that usually get shared as passive aggressive reels on work WhatsApp groups, maybe, or beyond, or in lighter conversations. And here, let's have an honest conversation between Gen Z. We have two Gen Zers and two millennials here. So let's have an honest conversation about why is it hard for people to understand what's on the other side, and why we have certain quirks and ways of working. So I'd like to open it up to Ananya and Ria to ask any question they feel like asking two representatives of millennials here.
Um, Ria, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Ria, you're on now.
You're on me.
Yeah, I want to ask why sometimes straightforward feedback seems disrespectful to you, because in like there are so many things, like why to complete one task, why do long meetings are necessary, and why every time we have to mail for every single things and take approval, why do and when we suppose, for instance, if my manager comes to me and propose me the solution, if I find out the loopholes and tell him that this will not work according to the field designs, so he get like, why, how could you deny this, I am so much experienced, and yeah, this all. So why I want to ask you.
I think Ria has really opened Pandora's box now. So, Gitanjali, would you like to take a shot at responding to that?
Yeah, yeah, and maybe so. Yeah, I don't know this particular example of your manager and why this has happened. Okay, but we will. I'll talk to you more about why you asked a very interesting question about why straightforward feedback sometimes considered disrespectful, right? When somebody, and I'm taking this from a place of when we give feedback. Say when millennials give feedback, they give a lot of context to things. I think we've been taught early on that if you give too much of a straightforward feedback, it can be read as disrespectful, especially when it lands out of context, it lands out of care or relationship. For example, a lot of us millennials grew up in environments which were very controlled, where tone, inclusion, psychological safety, all of these things were emphasized. So, they used to say this thing ki, you cannot talk back. Talking back was considered rude. Have you heard of it? I don't know if Gen Zs have you heard of this, but as millennials, we got a lot of hello. You cannot ask why. You cannot, some things are just the way they are, and because an elder has told you to do this or a manager has told you to do this, you just defer to respect and you just do it the way it's being told to you. So a lot of times we were asked not to ask questions. We were asked not to back answer, right? Don't be direct. So a lot of times that's why when we give feedback, we have to sort of lace it with intent, like a sentence that is like, okay, I'm saying this, but this is only so that it helps you. You'll see that millennials normally lace it with things, sentences like that, supportive sentences, right? Or saying, you're great at what you do, but hey, these are some things that you have to manage, right? Or acknowledging, the effort and then offering a path forward. It was, it was just, I think, a lot of conditioning in the way things were brought up. I'm not saying this is a good way or a good practice at all. I think that we should indeed ask questions. I think we should be curious. I think we should have that space where we are able to ask each other, hey, why are we even doing this? Why is this process so long? Why can't we have a shorter solution to it? Why not do it this way? Absolutely, we need these things. At the same time, I think people, it can also be insensitive at times. So I think we'll have to just insensitive in certain things to give feedback very directly. And this I'm not asking, saying in the context of questions, but more in context of giving feedback. I find that giving feedback with a context and with care usually works rather than a direct dismissive feedback at times. And about the long meetings, you also asked a question about long meetings and why millennials have all of these long meetings. I think just giving all the context and the respect and the path forward just drags all our meetings, I guess. I don't know. I really don't have an answer to that one.
I think it's simply a lot of, we are the essay answer, the 10-mark answer in the answer sheet, and you guys have been doing the MCQ. So I think it's just that a lot of context building. But yeah, a lot of psychosocial conditioning and unconditioning that needs to happen. And I think some empathy there in terms of talking to anyone from a different context, right? I think that's pretty much where we land. I think now a question for Gen Z, if
Yeah.
I may pose it. What really makes work meaningful to you, right? We use this almost like a jargon now. We want to do purposeful work, we want to do impact careers, we want to we want to do something that helps society, helps communities. We want to do all of that, but millennials or even Gen Zers, in fact, are also not into careers for the longevity of it. They are also switching careers a lot. They are also finding other ways to hustle and freelance and find other ways to support their income and their lifestyle. So what truly, bare bones, what is it that drives you to stick onto a career path, a
If I
career path?
may.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting question, Mamta. What I have realized is when you ask this question, what does Gen Z want when they talk about career? It is actually a very subjective question. It is, and it is very interesting that it's a subjective question because we are seeing more and more diversity in the careers that Gen Z want, in the type of work that they want to do, right? And this diversity in itself shows that. There's not one herd mentality that Gen Z has. And this comes from a place of not caring about what other people have to say at this point. They're like, I will do what I want to do, and that is what gives them meaning. Is one thing that they value. Of course, there is growth, and then there is pay. That all of this, of course, matters, right? You cannot say that I don't care about money in this world, in this economy, at least. But that money or that pay or that growth should not come at a cost of a terrible lifestyle, right? I am getting space for my personal life. I am getting space to do build on my own skills outside work. That is something that Gen Z values a lot. And having psychological safety is something that I feel Gen Z values a lot.
Thank you for that very poignant response, Ananya. Another question from you folks to the millennials then.
Yeah, I actually have a question. Why is there so much rigidity around processes and systems? Why can't you get the work done and get the work done in your own way? If the result is there, and if we can see impact of the result, why is there so much rigidity around how we are getting the work done? कि क्यों आना है 10 बजे और क्यों काम करना शुरू करना है 10 बजे? If the work is getting done by tomorrow, what is the point behind?
I think the
Because
sub question
we work to live, not live
is
to
something
work, and
every
also
Sorry, Dia, you were saying something?
yeah, we work to live, not live to work, and also employer branding says, "No, people first." We are just taking that seriously.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So I think the question on क्यों आना है 10 बजे is I think across generations. I don't think any generation agreed with आना है 10 बजे. मुझे आना ही है 10 बजे. But that's an interesting sub question in the larger question you placed in front of us. But Gitanjali, if you'd like to chip in.
Absolutely. मतलब क्यों आना है 10 बजे? I completely agree with what Mamta said. We also told our managers क्यों आना है 10 बजे. I think why, while managers themselves secretly might want to just get the job done and, come in at whatever time. But um, the fact of the matter is some are able to exercise that level of control, that level of, sort of cadence, things like that when it comes to doing their work, and some are simply not, right? Some team members and some people I've seen that are very good at getting their job done on time, before time, but some are not able to manage their times. So I think having a set time, start time and end time helps to have also everyone at office at the same time, so that if you want to have a meeting, if you want to go walk up to somebody's desk and ask a question, they're around. So that helps. So that's why having a timings. But about why the whole rigidity for processes, and if I have to look back, right, for a lot of us millennials, process wasn't bureaucracy, it was also about protection. Okay, it was, we came from a age when we come from an age where in workplaces they were more cross-functional, things were more visible. That is one misstep or one mistake, and then it would sort of spread everywhere saying this was done, right? So one was always super cautious to a point where, if something was not done a certain way, they will be held for that mistake or held accountable, right? Mistakes weren't forgiven so easily as they are, I think, right now. So, a lot of times, these processes were protection for you. They helped you know that, okay, a certain thing has to be done this way so that no mistake happens or no misstep happens, right? Yeah, and there was, like I said, there was this control S that we had to do. Files would not get saved automatically. So there was a lot of burden on mistakes. So which is why there were set processes and set expectations as to something, how something needed to be done.
Yeah.
Also, so that there is nothing left to interpretation and then to mistakes, right? Um, so I think processes are still important, even in today's world. They're still important to have a set guideline as to how you have to do something. But at the same time, I'm open for more flexibility now. I think that a certain process, it was defined with a certain context. Now the context has changed, or now there is a new information that is coming, and you don't always have to do it in that certain way that you did something earlier, right? Now with changing context, we have to change the process as well, right? Because now we are seeing that things are changing at a much faster rate. Earlier, once you define a process, it would stay the same for years, guys, right? If you walked into a telecommunications office, there would be a certain process and an SOP actually pasted on the wall. And that would be the same process that they followed for 5 years, 6 years. But we know that at this time and age, things are evolving super fast and things keep changing all the time. So, yeah, while I respect the need for processes because then you have consistency in the way that you're delivering something, it does not have to be holy grail. We should be able to question it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really the place that I was coming from as well. I feel like processes are important, but this is something that I've learned from my own experiences because we need a reference point to go back to and see why I did certain things the way I did them. and what worked and what didn't work. And this is why I ended up doing it the way that I did it. It sort of just helps you rejig your memory and figure out the sort of, the loopholes or the gaps within that. And I think the point now is that there is no set process for that applies universally. I think if we're all able to define our own process to deliver that output that we commit to, I think that flexibility is what is probably going to take us ahead. With this, we land towards a last quartile conversation. So I will move towards the next question now. Then, uh, before we get into audience questions, and we had some come in earlier, let's get all of our speakers to talk about what their aspirations for the next decade are. And while they comprise roughly one, I mean, Gen Z is going to soon become a large force within the global workforce, and together with millennials they're going to occupy pretty much a third or a quarter of the workforce in the coming years. So what are our expectations and north stars in terms of how we want to design and develop workspaces and cultures to make sure that we leverage all of our strengths towards the kind of goals that we have for our organizations and ourselves individually? And this could be in terms of meaningful career pathways, longevity in careers, work life balance, mental health, and also the role of technology with emerging spaces like AI and so on and so forth. So, for these comments, like to begin with Ananya, what are your thoughts around this?
It's actually quite intertwined because something that I want for myself that in the future or right now also is something that I also want to create for other people. And we keep talking about it, but what is it exactly? It's when we say a safe space or psychological safety, right? The fact that I don't dread every morning to wake up and come to office is a very big deal, because if you don't dread coming to office, that means you really like your work and you're really excited about trying something new every day or learning something new, right? And this actually motivates a lot if you look at people in any occupation for that matter, not just in the impact space. The safe space actually gives a lot of motivation and also increases a lot of productivity. I was talking to this very senior HR professional yesterday who has been working in human resources in the nonprofit sector, in one of the largest nonprofit sectors in the country. And she told me, Ananya, everybody in this world has the right to dignity. Everybody, whoever is coming to work, comes with the right to be treated fairly, transparently, and everybody has potential. We should not look down upon anyone. And this is true to such a great extent, because if we see that any job for that matter is not less than the other, and to be able to create this safe space for everyone, to create this safe space for people to actually come and do what they want to do, to actually love what they want to do, is something that I aspire to work towards. Mamta, you're on mute, actually.
Sorry. Thank you, Ananya, for your response. Ria, what are your aspirations for the next decade in the social sector space or beyond, and how you aspire seeing yourself working and your colleagues working as well?
Just a second. This is some background.
Okay. So,
So
yeah,
we are honestly looking for careers. Hello.
yeah. Go ahead, Ria.
We are looking for careers that mean something to us. Yeah. And for me, it's about creating impact and learning constantly, building solutions that actually improves lives of the people with whom we are working, for whom we are working. And at the same time, also, we don't romanticize struggle. Growth matters for us, purpose matters for us, but so does alignment. If the work stops challenging us and stop making sense to us, we'll question it. And I think our generation is very honest about that. And about the work life balance, yes, it is important. Passion is great, impact is great, but I believe burnout is not. So, if we want long careers, we need sustainable people, not just sustainable programs. So, that's the thing. And about the technology, that's our default setting. We want to use it to scale impact, but without losing the human touch.
Great. Thank you, Ria. And Gitanjali, your thoughts on what we want to look forward to in the next few years?
So in the next decade of my career, so because I'm counting my career in decades, I'm holding myself to a simple North Star, right? Do work that matters at scale, stay curious enough to keep growing, and build a life that doesn't require recovering from it. That you have a really hectic work life that you go back home and you just feel that you have to recover from your day job, right? So, and I don't think the aspiration is, work life balance as some perfectly weekly equation that, yes, on Saturday, Sunday, I will get my balance and other days I won't. It's agency, it's to choose where your energy goes across different seasons of life, across different times of the day. I'd love to see work culture shift from celebrating exhaustion to celebrating sustainability. What Ria just said, that people need to be sustainable. It's not just enough of things are more honest conversations about mental health, about capacity, about leadership that models boundaries without guilt, right? And we also spoke about technology. So technology in that sense should do two things for us, right? One is it should reduce drudgery and expand possibilities. AI can take away repetitive tasks, speed up analysis, improve decision making, but only if we build with guardrails of ethics and inclusion. My aspiration is that tech will becomes that great equalizer, helping frontline teams, small organizations, communities access some of the same quality of insight and support as the best in class and the best resource institutions have, right? So, if I had to summarize all my expectations in one line, I want a career that compounds impact, learning, and well being all at the same time.
Great. I think that's a very well articulated response, Gitanjali. I think you put all of our thoughts together in terms of what we really can visualize our workspaces evolving into. Since we have very little time left, we have time for one question, one audience question, which was shared with us beforehand. And I'd like for any of you to take it up, or all of you to take it up, but in quick, crisp responses. The question goes: how can both millennials and Gen Z find ways of working better together? Especially in intent driven spaces, we have the same goal, but we have diverse ways of working. So, what can really bridge that gap in the immediate future? Quick responses from everyone. We'll go with Ananya, Ria, and Gitanjali.
Ria, do you want to start?
Gitanjali already talked about it. Yeah, Gitanjali already talked about it. Uh, Even I believe that the advanced and the younger generation, they already share the most important thing, the intent. And in impact spaces, the goal is the same, creating meaningful social change. Where we tend to differ is how we approach the work, the communication, and collaboration. And bridging that gap starts with open and honest communication, not just speaking, but genuinely listening and being willing to see situations from each other's lens. And when we understand that the different approaches come from different experiences, those differences actually become strength, as Gitanjali already mentioned, rather than friction points. And it also helps to stay anchored in the shared purpose. In intent driven spaces, the mission is bigger than any one process or working style. And also we keep that social lens at the center. Alignment, then only alignment becomes easier, even when method differs. Another important piece is creating a culture of learning and flexibility. When experimentation is encouraged and mistakes are seen as a learning opportunities, I believe both generations can grow together rather than working in silos. So for me, yeah, bridging the gap isn't about changing each other's styles. It's about mutual respect, openness, and remembering that we are working toward the same larger goal. When the intent is clear, diverse approaches can become complementary rather than conflicting.
Yeah, thanks, Ria. I think returning to first principles, fundamental facts of uh, interactions with people, whether it's a workspace or not, just allowing each other be clear communication, listening in. I think those are the principles that all of us would like to follow, and that is what is going to get us there. Last thoughts, any last thoughts, Ananya and Gitanjali, before we wind up our session today?
No, I completely agree with what Ria said. It's clear communication and trust in each other, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the intent is same. We're all working towards the same purpose. It's the different ways of working. Everybody brings something to the table. There is something or the other to learn, irrespective of what place they come from, age, society. None of that matters when it comes on learning. There is always something to learn from the other person that you're talking to. So that openness of learning and the trust in the other person, knowing that the person standing in front of you here is also to do the same work that you are here to do. Nobody is here for their ulterior vested interests. At the end of the day, we all work towards the same goal.
Yep.
Absolutely. Isn't it wonderful that all of us from different generations, I think we're all agreeing on the same thing and we're all coming together and saying just the same thing. I think it's not us versus them, and we have to work together. We have to, the intent is the same. And when the goal is the same, then the path may be different, but the goal is the same. So that way we're all aligned.
I think in true blue nudge style, we say better together. So I guess that's the fundamental principle we all go back to.
And purpose at the center also.
Yes, purpose at the very center indeed. So thank you, Ananya. Thank you, Ria. Thank you, Gitanjali, for joining us this evening. It was a really fun, interesting conversation and fantastic way to kick off Jigyasas for 2026. Thank you to our audience for joining us this evening and listening in and registering and joining us on a weekday. That's really encouraging for us. Just before we wind up, calling out our curated conversations opportunity again. If you are interested to learn more about open roles for early stage careers at the Nudge, sign up through the link in the comments. It's an exclusive opportunity for interested candidates who are aligned with role expectations to prepare for the application process. And of course, the Nudge is hiring for a range of roles across functions. So do visit the website, check out those roles, and do apply if you find yourself suitable or curious. And thank you once again for joining us this evening. And we will see you at the next edition of Jigyaasa.
Thank you.
Thank you.